everyone, how's it going? Azren here. Hope you guys are doing well. I want to make a video about one of the most common questions that I receive, which is, Azren, how the heck can I learn a language faster? And I wanted to share some of the thoughts that I had on the topic. Now, first and foremost, you need to look at the time that you are currently putting in to studying or learning whatever language you are learning. And you need to figure out how you can maximize the effectiveness of that time. Let me give you some examples. Let's say you're putting in 5 hours a week currently, so an hour a day, Monday through Friday. Let's say that's what you're doing. You need to look at, okay, what am I accomplishing in those 5 hours? Track it. Actually track what you're learning. Track the number of words you learned, track the amount of grammar points you learned, track the accent tips you learned, track everything. Track what you learned in those 5 hours. I would probably break it down per hour too, so you can get a good read that every hour, here's what I'm accomplishing. I'm learning 5 words, I'm learning 1 grammar tense, and usually, wow, looks like I'm learning 1 tip on pronunciation. Huh, interesting. Or whatever it is, okay? So track it and go, okay, in 5 hours, I'm learning this much. Now you need to start looking at, okay, how can I take it from this much to this much? How can I make it 10% more? So if I'm learning 5 words an hour, how can I make it 6, 7 words an hour? If I'm learning 2 grammar tenses an hour, how can I make that, 2.5 or 3? Or how can I increase that? So trying to maximize your current time, that's probably a starting point. I'd probably recommend you start there, because that's probably the most controllable and one of the simpler shifts you can make. Now, speaking of time, I would also recommend that you try and increase the amount of time and the amount of hours that you are putting in. So if you're putting 5 hours, make it 7. 10 hours, make it 11. Make it 12. Make it 13. Even if it's only half an hour extra, actually, even if it's going from 5 to 5.5, that's going to make a difference in the long term. When you increase the hours, inevitably you're going to increase the speed that you learn the language, right? So that is something to look at. Now, and here's the other big thing. I want to really throw you guys for a 360. I want to throw you guys for a loop. I actually fundamentally believe that putting a lot of focus on speed and efficiency is probably not your best bet. I actually think that's, listen, I think you're trying to look for a shortcut. I think most people are trying to look for shortcuts in a world where there probably aren't a ton of shortcuts. Like, there's obviously some, but in the big picture scheme of things, when you're looking for a shortcut, you're usually not going to find one. I would probably encourage you more to err on the side of patience. I'd probably push you and encourage you to try and be more patient and expect it to take a little bit longer. Why? What does this do? Well, if you mentally set yourself up to say, okay, this is a 7-year process or a 10-year process, and you can really internalize that in your brain and convince yourself this is a 10-year process, a couple things happen. Number one, the minor setbacks throughout the week, right? The minor, like the things like you have a bad day, you have an hour of study that was just really hard, you try to speak and it just didn't come out, it just didn't work. Those kinds of setbacks don't bother you anymore because you are in it for 10 years. And mentally, you're like, I'm doing this for 10 years, I can take mini mistakes, it's okay. So it makes the mental stress a lot lower on you and makes it easier to keep pushing through the hard times. But the problem is this, if you've gone, man, I want to learn this in 2 years, well, you got a problem. When you lose, a week of time, it's a lot more stressful because in your brain, the timeline you set up is 2 years. So I'd rather you set up a 10-year timeline or 7-year timeline, a longer timeline, right? The longer the longer the better in a lot of ways, so that you can actually push through some of the challenges that naturally come with trying to pick up a new language. Now, we're gonna flip the coin one more time because something just occurred to me. It's almost like I'd actually rather you do this. I want you to be patient in the macro. What I mean by that is I want you to expect it to take it 10 years and, I don't know why I said and 3 times, but you also want to try and get as much done as possible every single day. So you're being fast on a daily basis and trying to be efficient on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis and learn as much as possible and push yourself and try and squeeze in little amounts of time and do that, right? If you can do that in the short term on the day-to-day, hour-to-hour, week-to-week basis, but mentally be committed for 10 years to the language or 7 years, 5 years, 6 years, a large number of years, that's where the magic happens. That, my friends, oh my god, I just stumbled upon genius while I'm making this video. It literally just occurred to me as I'm talking. It's funny how talking to cameras and just talking things out really helps me solidify my ideas. That's where the magic is. That, my friends, is the biggest secret, I think, to being able to increase the speed of how quickly you learn a language, is to go big picture. It's going to take me a long time to learn the language, but on a day-to-day basis, you're working really fast, you're working really hard, you're trying to maximize every minute that you put into the language, etc. I think that, my friends, is the big secret to actually going out and learning a language as fast as possible. So anyway, wow, that felt really good. I felt really good about that video. Hope you guys liked it, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye for now.